Jake Turner had exactly 3 minutes before he humiliated himself in front of the entire Galactic Mage Council. Again. He stood outside the examination hall on Arcanum Prime, the galaxy's most prestigious magical academy, staring at his trembling hands. Around him, alien students chatted excitedly in dozens of languages. A tall Veltraxian with purple skin practiced summoning ice shards that hovered perfectly in the air. A four-armed Corthian made intricate magical symbols appear and disappear with casual flicks of her fingers. Even the slug-like Morellian next to Jake was levitating textbooks while simultaneously reading 3 of them. Jake couldn't make a paperclip move an inch. "Hey, Turner," called Brandon Mills, a human student who'd actually passed his certifications last year. "Try not to burn down the building this time, yeah?" A cluster of alien students chittered with laughter. Jake's face burned. Last month, he'd attempted a simple light spell during Professor Aldrin's class and somehow set the curtains on fire. The month before that, his levitation attempt had launched a desk through a window. The academy maintenance bots now followed him around like he was a walking disaster zone. "Candidate Turner, you're up," announced Professor Aldrin, a gray-haired woman who looked at Jake the way someone might look at a puppy that kept peeing on the carpet. Disappointed, but not surprised. Jake walked into the vast examination chamber. The Galactic Mage Council sat in a semicircle on an elevated platform. 12 beings from 12 different species, all watching him with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed contempt. Holographic displays floated around the room, ready to measure and record every aspect of his magical output. In the center of the room sat a small silver cube. The test was simple. Use magic to change its color. That was it. First-year stuff. Children on most magical worlds could do this before they learned to read. Jake had failed this test 4 times. "Whenever you're ready, Mr. Turner," said Council Head Vextor, a towering insectoid being whose translator gave his voice a bored, mechanical tone. Jake took a deep breath. He'd studied for weeks. Watched tutorial after tutorial. Practiced the hand movements until his arms ached. He knew the theory backwards and forwards. Magical energy flowed from the neurocrystalline implant at the base of his skull, through his nervous system, and out through focused intention and gesture. Simple. He raised his hand toward the cube. Concentrated. Felt for that spark of power that was supposed to be there. Nothing. He tried again, adding the proper gesture, speaking the activation phrase. Chromatus shift. The cube sat there. Silver. Unmoving. Mocking him. Somewhere in the observation gallery, someone snorted. Jake's jaw clenched. He pushed harder, straining, visualizing the energy flowing like every instructor had told him. His implant should be channeling power right now. His hand should be glowing. Something should be happening. The cube flickered. Jake's heart leaped. Was that red? It was working. Then sparks erupted from the council's main display panel. The holographic screens went haywire, flashing random colors. One of the hovering light fixtures began smoking. An alarm started wailing. "Cease attempt. Cease." Vextor commanded. Jake dropped his hand. The chaos stopped. The cube remained silver. Professor Aldrin rushed forward with a handheld scanner, waving it around Jake like he was contaminated. She frowned at the readings, then showed them to Vextor. The council head's antennae twitched in what Jake had learned was the Vextorian equivalent of a frustrated sigh. "Mr. Turner," Vextor began, his mechanical voice somehow conveying pity, "in 20 cycles of operation, this academy has never encountered a candidate quite like you. Your theoretical knowledge is adequate. Your dedication is noted. But your practical magical output is 0.03% of minimum viable levels. Your implant appears to be functioning, yet no measurable magic is being channeled." "I can try again," Jake said, hating how desperate he sounded. "I've been practicing." "The practice is evident in your technique," another council member said, a crystalline being whose voice chimed like bells. "The technique, however, means nothing without power. You are, by every metric we possess, magically inert." The word hit Jake like a punch. Inert. Dead. Useless. "The council's recommendation is immediate withdrawal from the program," Vextor continued. "Your tuition will be refunded. We can arrange transport back to Earth within the week." Jake opened his mouth to argue, to beg, but what could he say? They were right. 3 years at Celestial Academy and he couldn't perform a single spell. He'd watched human students younger than him master advanced techniques while he struggled with basics meant for children. "That will be all, Mr. Turner," Vextor said with a dismissive wave. Jake turned and walked toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the massive chamber. The observation gallery had gone quiet. Even the students who'd mocked him seemed uncomfortable now, looking away as he passed. This wasn't funny anymore. This was just sad. He pushed through the doors and kept walking, ignoring Professor Aldrin calling his name. The station's recycled air hit his face, carrying that weird metallic smell mixed with whatever exotic pollen the Morellian gardens produced. His eyes started watering immediately. His nose itched. Great. His allergies were acting up. Just perfect. Jake stopped in an empty corridor, leaning against the cold metal wall. 3 years. 3 years of hoping he'd figure it out, that something would click, that he'd wake up one day and suddenly be able to do what everyone else did so easily. The tickle in his nose got worse. He rubbed at it, sniffling. Of all times for his allergies to flare up. He fumbled in his pocket for the antihistamine tabs Dr. Hayes had prescribed, but came up empty. Must have left them in his dorm. The sneeze built like pressure behind his eyes. He tried to hold it back, pinching his nose, but it was no use. Jake sneezed. And the world turned white. Jake woke up to the sound of alarms screaming in his ears and emergency lights flashing red against his closed eyelids. His head pounded like someone had used it as a drum. Every muscle in his body ached. He tried to remember where he was, what had happened, but his thoughts felt fuzzy and disconnected. He opened his eyes and immediately wished he hadn't. He was floating. Actually floating in zero gravity inside some kind of spherical pod barely bigger than a closet. Through the small transparent window, he could see stars. Just stars. No station. No academy spires. No docking bays or transport ships. Just the endless black of space dotted with distant points of light. Emergency beacon active, a mechanical voice announced from the pod speaker. Rescue signal transmitted. Estimated response time, 4 to 7 minutes. Jake's brain slowly started working again. He'd been in the corridor. He'd sneezed. And then, nothing. Just white light and a sensation like being pulled apart and put back together wrong. What happened? He muttered, his voice hoarse. The pod's small display screen flickered to life, showing a recorded message. Professor Aldrin's face appeared, but she looked different. Pale. Shaken. Her usually perfect hair was a mess and there was a cut above her eyebrow. Jake, if you're seeing this, thank God you're alive, she said, her voice tight. There was an incident. A massive energy discharge centered on your location. Section 7 of the station is just gone. Vaporized. The blast was contained to a 3-kilometer radius by the station's emergency shields, but everything inside that sphere ceased to exist. Jake stared at the screen. 3 kilometers. The examination hall had been in Section 7. The council chambers. The observation galleries. The student lounges where he'd studied countless nights. We detected your life signs in an escape pod that auto-launched when the blast hit, Aldrin continued. You were unconscious but stable. Jake, I need you to understand something. This wasn't a station malfunction. The energy signature was magical in origin. Pure magical energy, more concentrated than anything we've ever recorded. She paused, glancing off-screen at something. When she looked back, her expression was grim. There's more. The KRWL Dominion had positioned an invasion fleet around Arcanum Prime. 6,000 warships running silent, preparing for a surprise attack. We had no idea they were there. Jake, your energy discharge didn't just destroy part of the station. It destroyed their entire fleet. Every ship. Every crew member. The KRWL Empire just lost half their military in an instant. The words didn't make sense. Jake read them again in his head, trying to process. He destroyed 6,000 warships? That was impossible. He couldn't even change the color of a cube. Rescue ships are en route, Aldrin said. Stay in the pod. Don't try to use any magic. We'll figure this out. The message ended. Jake floated there in stunned silence. His sneeze had killed people. Thousands of people. Maybe tens of thousands. His stomach lurched and he thought he might throw up, but managed to hold it back. The pod was small enough without adding that to the mix. Through the window, he saw lights approaching. Rescue ships, their running lights blinking in formation. Within minutes, his pod was secured in a docking clamp and pulled into a larger vessel. The gravity returned gradually, lowering him gently to the floor. The airlock hissed open. Instead of medical personnel, 4 armed security guards in heavy combat armor stood outside. Their weapons weren't pointed at him, but they weren't exactly relaxed either. Jake Turner, one of them said through his helmet speaker. Please come with us. Council orders. They escorted him through the ship's corridors. Other crew members stopped and stared as he passed. Some looked afraid. Others looked angry. One woman actually backed against the wall when he got close, like he was radioactive. Maybe he was. They brought him to what looked like a holding cell, except the walls were covered in strange glowing symbols. Magical containment runes. The kind used for dangerous artifacts or unstable magical entities. "Wait here," the guard said. "Someone will be with you shortly." The door sealed behind him with a heavy thunk. Jake sat on the metal bench and put his head in his hands. His neural implant felt normal. No pain, no strange sensations. He tried to access his magical reserves the way he'd been taught, reaching for that internal spark of power. Nothing. Same as always. Empty. How could someone with no magical ability destroy half a space station and 6,000 warships? The door opened an hour later. A woman in a medical officer's uniform stepped inside, carrying a tablet and some kind of handheld scanner. She was human, maybe early 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her name tag read Dr. Brooks. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said immediately, holding up her empty hand. "I'm a medical mage specializing in implant complications. The council asked me to examine you." "Did I really do it?" Jake asked. His voice sounded small. "Did I kill all those people?" Dr. Brooks's expression softened. The KRYLL were preparing to attack. They would have killed everyone on that station and probably moved on to nearby colonies. "You didn't murder anyone, Jake. But yes, the energy signature matches your implant frequency. Somehow, you released enough magical power to cause catastrophic destruction." She activated her scanner and began waving it around him. Her frown deepened as she read the results. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered. "Your external magical output is essentially zero, just like your records show. But your internal readings." She looked up at him with wide eyes. "Jake, how do you feel? Any pain? Dizziness? Nausea?" "I feel fine. Tired, but fine." "Why?" She turned the scanner so he could see the display. It showed a three-dimensional model of his body with his neural implant highlighted. But instead of the normal dim glow indicating low magical reserves, his entire nervous system was lit up like a Christmas tree. Bright red warnings flashed across the screen. "According to this, you're carrying enough compressed magical energy to destroy a small moon," Dr. Brooks said quietly. "It's contained in your cells, your tissues, your bones. Every part of you is saturated with power. You're not a failed mage, Jake. You're a walking magical singularity." Jake stared at the scan. "But I can't cast spells. I've never been able to." "Because you're not channeling magic through you," she explained, sitting down beside him. "You're storing it. Compressing it. Every time you tried to cast a spell, instead of releasing the energy, your body absorbed and compressed it further. You've been doing this for 3 years. The pressure built and built until..." She made an exploding gesture with her hands. "Until I sneezed." "Until you sneezed," she confirmed. "And provided an accidental release valve." Outside the cell, Jake could hear raised voices. Arguments. Someone mentioned weapon and eliminate the threat. Someone else said study him and strategic asset. Dr. Brooks heard it too. She looked at the door, then back at Jake. "I'm going to be honest with you," she said. "Half the council wants to kill you before you sneeze again. The other half wants to figure out how to weaponize you. And the KRYL just declared war on Earth, claiming humans attacked them with a superweapon. But it was an accident. They can't admit that an accident destroyed half their military. So they're calling it an act of war." She stood up, tucking her scanner away. "I'm going to try to help you, Jake. But right now, you're the most dangerous person in the galaxy. And everyone knows it." The door opened and the guards returned. "Council wants him moved to Maximum Security Research Facility Omega," one announced. "We leave in 10 minutes. As they led him away, Jake caught a glimpse of a news feed on someone's tablet. The headline read, "Humanity's Secret Weapon Revealed. Earth Declares Dominance in Galactic Politics." Jake had just wanted to pass his magic exam. Now he'd started an interstellar war. The Maximum Security Research Facility Omega turned out to be less of a research facility and more of a prison designed to hold things that shouldn't exist. Jake's cell was a perfect cube, 20 feet on each side, with walls made of some kind of transparent energy field that hummed constantly. Beyond the field, he could see observation equipment, monitoring stations, and at least a dozen guards at all times. He'd been there for 3 days. 3 days of tests, scans, blood draws, and questions. Always the same questions. Can you feel the energy? Can you control it? Have you always been like this? The answer to all of them was basically no, maybe, and apparently yes. Dr. Brooks visited him every morning. She was the only person who treated him like a human being instead of a bomb with legs. This morning, she brought coffee. Real coffee, not the synthetic stuff the facility provided. The gesture almost made Jake cry. I pulled your complete medical records from Earth, she said, settling into the chair outside his containment field. Every checkup, every scan, every childhood illness. You want to know something interesting? At this point, I'll take any information I can get, Jake said, wrapping his hands around the warm cup they passed through the field's entry port. You were always like this. Since birth. Your parents took you to a pediatric IN when you were 2 because you weren't hitting normal developmental milestones for magical sensitivity. Most human kids start showing basic magical awareness around 18 months. You showed nothing. Jake sipped his coffee. Yeah, I know. My parents spent a fortune on specialists. Everyone said I was a late bloomer. But here's the thing, Dr. Brooks continued, leaning forward. I compared your childhood scans to your current ones. Jake, you've been accumulating and compressing magical energy your entire life. 24 years of constant build-up with no release. Do you know what that means? That I'm a ticking time bomb? That you're a miracle, she corrected. Your body developed a way to contain impossible amounts of energy without tearing itself apart. Your cells adapted. Your nervous system created new pathways. You essentially evolved a completely unique biological structure. As far as I can tell, you're one of a kind in the entire galaxy. Jake set down his coffee. Great. I'm a freak of nature who accidentally commits mass murder when he sneezes. My parents would be so proud. Your parents are worried sick, Dr. Brooks said gently. They've been calling every day. The council won't let me connect you, but I've been sending them updates. They want you to know they love you. The words hit Jake harder than he expected. He hadn't thought about his parents in days. His dad, who'd worked double shifts to afford academy tuition. His mom, who'd sent him care packages every month filled with Earth snacks and handwritten notes. They'd believed in him even when everyone said he was wasting his time. What's happening out there? Jake asked, changing the subject before he got too emotional. With the war. Dr. Brooks's expression darkened. It's escalating. The KRYLL launched probing attacks on 3 human colonies in the outer systems. Nothing major yet, just testing our defenses. They're trying to figure out if Earth has more weapons like you. But we don't. I'm just broken in a weird way. The KRYLL don't know that. Neither does anyone else. Earth's government is actually encouraging the rumors. They're calling you Project Guardian in official statements. Making vague references to humanity's defensive capabilities and advanced magical technology. They're bluffing, Jake, and you're the card they're pretending to hold. A door hissed open across the observation area. Professor Aldrin walked in, accompanied by 2 council members Jake recognized. Vextor, the insectoid council head, and a floating jellyfish-like being named Councillor Prynn. Dr. Brooks, we need to run another test, Vextor announced. He's been tested constantly for 3 days, Dr. Brooks protested. His stress levels are already dangerous. The KRYLL ambassadors are demanding proof that the incident was accidental, Councillor Prynn said, her translated voice musical and cold. They claim no being could possess such power without intending to use it. We need to demonstrate that Mr. Turner cannot control his abilities. You want me to try casting a spell, Jake said flatly. Under controlled conditions, yes, Vextor confirmed. We've prepared a reinforced testing chamber. If you can demonstrate that you cannot access your power intentionally, it may prevent further conflict. Jake looked at Dr. Brooks. She gave a tiny shake of her head, but what choice did he have? If there was even a chance this could stop the war, he had to try. Fine, he said. Let's do it. They moved him to a massive spherical chamber deep in the facility's core. The walls were lined with the same containment runes as his cell, but about 100 times more of them. Cameras and sensors covered every surface. In the center of the room floated a simple wooden block. The task is elementary, Vextor explained through the intercom. Move the block. Any movement at all will suffice. Take your time. Use whatever technique you feel most comfortable with. Jake stood in the center of the chamber and stared at the block. It was about the size of a brick, floating at eye level about 10 feet away. He'd attempted this exact exercise probably 10,000 times over the past 3 years. He raised his hand and concentrated. Reached for his magic the way every instructor had taught him. Felt for that spark, that connection between intention and power. The block sat there, motionless. He tried different hand gestures. Spoke activation phrases in 3 different magical languages. Visualized the block moving with every ounce of mental focus he could muster. Nothing happened. Perhaps try a different approach, Counselor Pryn suggested. Simply will the block to move. Don't think about technique. Just want it to happen. Jake closed his eyes and wanted it. Wanted it so badly his teeth hurt. Imagined the block sliding to the left. Pictured it in his mind with perfect clarity. He opened his eyes. The block hadn't moved a millimeter. I told you, he said, frustration bleeding into his voice. I can't do it. I've never been able to do it. Whatever happened when I sneezed, it wasn't intentional. I don't know how to access this power you say I have. The observation team conferred amongst themselves. Jake saw Dr. Brooks pointing at one of her monitors, arguing with someone. Professor Aldrin looked defeated. Vextor's antennae drooped. Try once more, the council head said. Put everything you have into it. This is important, Mr. Turner. Jake gritted his teeth. Fine. They wanted everything? He'd give them everything. He focused every bit of concentration, every ounce of will, every particle of effort on that stupid wooden block. Move, he commanded it silently. Move, damn it. Move. The block sat there like a rock. But Jake felt something. A pressure building behind his eyes. A tightness in his chest. His implants suddenly felt hot against his skull. Warning lights started flashing on the observation monitors. That's enough, Dr. Brooks said urgently. Jake, stop. Stop trying. But Jake couldn't stop. Couldn't pull back. The pressure built and built, like a dam about to break. His vision blurred. His ears popped. The air around him started to shimmer. Then he hiccuped. The wooden block ceased to exist. Not destroyed. Not vaporized. It simply stopped being there, as if it had never existed at all. The space where it had been rippled like water. Jake hiccuped again. A perfectly circular hole appeared in the containment chamber wall. And the wall behind that. And the wall behind that. Jake could see straight through 17 layers of reinforced hull plating to the facility's outer corridor. Shut it down, someone screamed. Medical team, now. Dr. Brooks rushed into the chamber, not caring about safety protocols. She grabbed Jake's shoulders. Look at me. Focus on my voice. Breathe slowly. In through your nose, out through your mouth. That's it. Just breathe. The hiccups stopped. The pressure faded. Jake sagged against her, exhausted. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't mean to. I know, she said quietly. Nobody thinks you did. But as they helped him back to his cell, Jake saw the looks on the council members' faces. Fear. Pure, undiluted fear. Later that night, after the facility had gone quiet, Dr. Brooks returned. She looked tired but excited, carrying her tablet like it held the secrets of the universe. I think I figured it out, she said. Jake, you don't need to learn how to use magic. You need to learn how to release it. Safely. In small, controlled amounts. How? I don't know yet. But traditional magic training is making it worse. Every time you try to cast a spell the normal way, you compress the energy tighter instead of releasing it. We need a completely different approach. Like what? She smiled, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Jake felt a flicker of hope. We're going to teach you how to leak, Dr. Brooks said. Like a pressure valve. Little by little. It'll take time and patience, but I think we can do this. And if we can't? Her smile faded. Then we hope you don't sneeze again. Dr. Brooks started with meditation. Jake thought she was joking at first. He'd accidentally deleted half a space station and triggered an interstellar war, and her solution was to have him sit cross-legged and think about his breathing. But she was dead serious. Forget everything you learned at the academy, she said on their first training session. Magic isn't about control. Not for you. For you, it's about release. Like opening a faucet instead of breaking a dam. They sat together in a specially modified training room. The containment fields were cranked up to maximum, and emergency evacuation protocols were on standby. Just in case. Dr. Brooks had convinced the council to give them 2 weeks. After that, they'd make a decision about Jake's future. Nobody said what that decision might be, but Jake could guess. Close your eyes, Dr. Brooks instructed. Don't reach for your magic. Just feel it. Acknowledge that it's there. Jake closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, he stopped trying to grab his power and just felt. And there it was. Not a spark or a flicker, but an ocean. A vast, churning sea of compressed energy packed so tightly inside him that it felt like carrying a star in his chest. Oh God, he breathed. There's so much. I know. Now breathe. Just breathe normally. Don't try to push it out. Just imagine the tiniest crack in a dam. Water trickling out. So small you barely notice. Jake focused on his breathing. In. Out. In. Out. He pictured that crack, that trickle. Nothing happened for the first hour. Or the second. By the third hour, his legs were cramping and he was pretty sure meditation was just torture disguised as therapy. Then he felt it. The smallest possible release. Like exhaling after holding your breath too long. A fraction of his power leaked out through his fingertips and dissipated harmlessly into the air. Dr. Brooks's scanner beeped. She checked it and grinned. You did it. 0.001% discharge. That's perfect. That's it. Jake opened his eyes. That tiny amount took 3 hours. Rome wasn't built in a day, Jake. You've been compressing energy for 24 years. This is going to take time. They practiced every day. Sometimes twice a day. Jake learned to find that feeling, that tiny release valve. Meditation became breathing exercises became biofeedback training. Dr. Brooks hooked him up to machines that showed his energy levels in real time, teaching him to recognize the sensation of release versus compression. After a week, he could leak energy on command. Tiny amounts, barely measurable, but consistent. Dr. Brooks called it progress. The council called it insufficient. The KOLL are losing patience, Vextor informed them during one of his daily check-ins. They've escalated attacks on human colonies. Earth's defense fleet is holding them back, but barely. They want proof that Turner is not a weapon, or they want him eliminated. Give us more time, Dr. Brooks pleaded. You have 3 more days, Councillor Prynn said. Then the council votes on permanent containment measures. Jake didn't ask what permanent containment meant. He could guess. On the 9th day, something changed. Jake was in his usual meditation pose, releasing tiny trickles of energy, when he sneezed. Not a big one. Just a normal, allergy-induced sneeze. He barely had time to panic before Dr. Brooks grabbed a tissue and handed it to him. Bless you, she said casually. Jake stared at her. I didn't blow anything up. No, you didn't. She checked her scanner and laughed. Your release rate spiked during the sneeze, but it was controlled. Channeled. You instinctively directed it through your established pathways instead of letting it explode outward. Jake, you're adapting. They changed tactics. Instead of just leaking energy, Dr. Brooks had him try directing it. Not casting spells the traditional way, but simply guiding the leak toward specific points. His fingertips. His palms. The air around him. That's when things got weird. Jake held a glass of water and focused on releasing energy through his right hand. Just a trickle. The water turned to wine. Then to orange juice. Then back to water. He wasn't trying to transform it. The energy just did it naturally, warping reality wherever it touched. Holy hell, Dr. Brooks whispered. Next, she had him try moving objects. Not with telekinesis in the traditional sense, but by releasing energy near them. Jake focused on a pen lying on the table. Released the tiniest amount of power. The pen didn't move. It teleported. Appeared in his hand instantaneously, as if space itself had folded. That should be impossible, Professor Aldrin said from the observation room. She'd been watching their sessions more frequently. Teleportation requires massive energy expenditure and complex calculations. He just did it. Because for him, it's not effort, Dr. Brooks explained. He's not casting a spell. He's just leaking a tiny bit of power, and reality bends around him to compensate. What we call advanced magic is just Jake taking the smallest breath. Word spread. Scientists from across the galaxy requested permission to study him. The council received offers from a dozen species wanting Jake as an ally. And just as many demanding his execution. On the 12th day, everything fell apart. Jake was practicing distance teleportation, moving objects from one side of the room to the other, when alarms screamed throughout the facility. Red emergency lights flooded the corridors. Dr. Brooks's communicator erupted with panicked voices. The KOLL are attacking Earth, she said, her face going pale as she listened. It's not a probe anymore. It's a full invasion. 3 battle fleets. Thousands of ships. Jake's blood ran cold. Where? Earth orbit. They bypassed the outer defenses using some kind of cloaking technology. The defense fleet is scrambling, but they're outnumbered 5-1. She looked up at him. Jake, they're going to lose. Earth has maybe 2 hours before the KRYLL start orbital bombardment. Then I need to get there. You're trillions of kilometers away. Even the fastest ship would take days. Jake stood up. The meditation pose, the careful control, the slow trickles of power. None of that mattered now. His parents were on Earth. His little sister. His friends. Billions of people who had nothing to do with this war. I can teleport, he said. You teleported a pen across a room. It's the same principle, just bigger. Jake walked to the center of the training room. You said reality bends around me. That space folds when I release energy. So I'll release more energy. Aim it at Earth. Make space fold farther. Dr. Brooks grabbed his arm. Jake, you don't have that kind of control yet. You could end up inside a planet. Inside a star. You could tear yourself apart or take half this facility with you. Then stay back, he said gently, pulling free. But I have to try. You'll kill yourself. My family is about to die anyway. Either I save them or I don't. But I'm not sitting here doing nothing. He could see the conflict on her face. The scientist who'd worked so hard to teach him control. The doctor who'd treated him like a person instead of a weapon. The friend who'd brought him coffee and actually cared whether he lived or died. At least let me help, she finally said. I can monitor your energy output, guide you through the process. Give you the best chance of surviving this. Jake nodded. Tell me what to do. Dr. Brooks pulled up a star chart on her tablet, showing Earth's position relative to their facility. You need to visualize the destination. Not just Earth, but a specific point in space near the planet. If you materialize inside something solid, you're dead. Aim for high orbit, away from the battle fleet. Got it? And Jake? She met his eyes. Don't hold back. Don't try to control it. Just release. Trust your instincts. Your body knows how to do this, even if your mind doesn't. Jake closed his eyes. Felt that ocean of power inside him. Stopped treating it like something dangerous and started treating it like something useful. He pictured Earth. The blue and green marble floating in space. Home. His destination. Then he released. Not a trickle. Not a careful leak. A flood. Energy poured out of him like water through a broken dam, more power than Dr. Brooks's scanners could measure. The training room filled with light. Reality screamed. Space folded. Jake disappeared. And Dr. Brooks stood alone in the training room, staring at the spot where he'd been, her scanner still showing impossible readings from empty air. Good luck, she whispered to the silence. Jake opened his eyes to chaos. He was inside a ship. A KRYLL ship, judging by the purple-lit corridors and the chittering alarm sounds. Wrong. He'd aimed for empty space, but his teleportation had been off by a few thousand kilometers. Through a nearby viewport, he could see Earth hanging in the distance, beautiful and blue, surrounded by the flashing lights of ships exchanging fire. The bridge crew noticed him about 3 seconds after he arrived. A dozen insectoid KRYLL warriors spun toward him, weapons charging. Their commander, a massive female with scarred chitin and 3 missing legs, stood from her command throne. Then their weapons exploded. Not from Jake doing anything. Just from him being there. The energy bleeding off his body overloaded their magnetic coils and fried their power cells. Sparks erupted across the bridge. Consoles went dark. The ship's lights flickered. What is that thing? One of the warriors chittered in their clicking language. Jake's translator implant picked it up automatically. It's him, the commander said, her voice a mix of fear and awe. The weapon. The one from Arcanum Prime. Jake raised his hand slowly. I'm not a weapon. And I don't want to hurt anyone. Just, stop attacking Earth. Please. The commander's antennae twitched. We cannot stop. Our empire demands vengeance. Your kind destroyed 6,000 of our ships. That was an accident. No accident causes such destruction. She gestured, and blast doors started closing around the bridge, sealing them in. If you are not a weapon, prove it. Surrender yourself for examination. Jake felt the walls closing in, literally. The blast doors were reinforced durasteel, designed to contain hull breaches. But where they touched the edges of his energy field, they began to warp and melt like plastic near a flame. "I can't surrender," Jake said. "People are dying out there. My people. Your people. This whole war is pointless. Then we die with honor." The commander lunged forward, her remaining legs propelling her with frightening speed. Jake didn't think. Didn't plan. Just released a pulse of energy outward, trying to push her back without hurting her. The commander froze mid-leap, suspended in the air. Not held by force, but locked in a bubble of warp space-time where motion had simply stopped being possible. Every KRYLL on the bridge stared in horror. Jake stared too. He hadn't known he could do that. Hadn't tried to do that. The power had just responded to his intention, reality bending itself into knots to make it happen. "Listen to me," he said, his voice echoing strangely in the distorted space. "I didn't come here to fight. I came here to stop this. All of this." He gestured toward the viewport where human and KRYLL ships were tearing each other apart. "How many more people have to die before someone admits this is stupid?" The frozen commander couldn't respond, obviously. Jake carefully released the time bubble. She dropped to the deck, gasping. "You could have killed me," she said quietly. "I don't want to kill anyone." "Then you are a fool." But she didn't attack again. Instead, she limped back to her command throne and pulled up a tactical display. "Do you see this? 3 KRYLL battle fleets. 7,000 ships. Your defense force has 300 vessels. We will crush them within the hour, and then we will bombard your planet until..." Every screen on the bridge went dark. Then they flickered back on, but wrong. Instead of tactical displays, they showed Jake's face. Every screen. Every terminal. Throughout the entire ship, and according to the frantic reports coming in, throughout the entire KRYLL fleet. Jake hadn't done that on purpose either. His energy field was just so strong it was interfering with every electronic system around him, rewriting data, overriding commands. He was a walking electromagnetic pulse that could apparently hack computers by existing near them. "Okay, that's new," he muttered. He took a breath and started walking. Not running, not attacking. Just walking. Through the bridge doors, down the corridor, toward the ship's docking bay. His energy field carved a path through walls like they were paper. Every KRYLL warrior who tried to stop him found their weapons failing, their armor systems shutting down, their tactical implants going haywire. Jake emerged into the docking bay and stared out at the fleet through the atmospheric containment field. 7,000 ships. All those crews. All those lives hanging in the balance because of a misunderstanding, a stupid accident, and pride too stubborn to admit the truth. He couldn't fight them all. Couldn't destroy them. Wouldn't destroy them. But maybe he could scare them. Jake stepped out into space. The vacuum should have killed him instantly, but his energy field created a bubble of breathable air that moved with him. He floated there between the ships, a tiny human figure glowing with impossible power, and released his energy. Not violently. Not destructively. Just, visibly. Light poured out of him. Pure magical energy made visible, cascading in waves that rippled through space like aurora borealis on steroids. Every ship in the fleet detected it. Every sensor went crazy trying to measure it. Every tactical computer tried to calculate how much power they were seeing and returned error messages because the numbers were too high. Jake rose above the flagship, his energy forming wings of light that stretched for kilometers. He didn't know he could do this. Didn't know he could shape the release, make it beautiful instead of destructive. But Dr. Brooks had been right. His body knew how. His instincts understood. He was learning to breathe. From Earth's defense fleet, Admiral Patterson stared at her screens in disbelief. "What am I looking at?" "It's Turner," her tactical officer reported. "Jake Turner. The Academy student. I don't know what he's doing, but the KRYLL fleet is breaking formation." She was right. One by one, the KRYLL warships were pulling back, creating distance between themselves and the glowing human figure. Not retreating, exactly. More like giving a dangerous animal a very wide berth. On the KRYLL flagship, the commander had made her way to the observation deck. She stood there, her entire command staff behind her, watching Jake float in space like a newborn star. "Commander," her second-in-command chittered nervously. "Orders?" The commander was silent for a long moment. Then, "Open a channel to all fleets. Cease fire." "Commander?" "That is not a weapon," she said quietly. "Weapons are controlled. Aimed. Used with intention. That creature out there." She gestured at Jake with one claw. He is simply existing. And his existence is dismantling our ships without even trying. If he wanted to destroy us, we would already be gone. Then what is he? Proof, the commander said, that we attacked the wrong species. She opened a direct communication channel. Human. Jake Turner. Can you hear me? Jake's voice came through, clear despite the vacuum of space. I hear you. We surrender. Immediately. Completely. Call off your power, and we will withdraw. I'm not attacking you. We know. That is why we surrender. Back at the research facility, Dr. Brooks watched through remote sensors, tears streaming down her face. He's doing it. He's actually doing it. Professor Aldrin stood beside her. He's releasing more energy per second than some stars produce. And he's shaping it. Controlling it. How? Because he stopped thinking of it as magic, Dr. Brooks said. He's just breathing. In space, Jake felt something shift inside him. The pressure that had built for 24 years was finally equalizing. Not gone, never gone, but balanced. Manageable. He understood now. He didn't need to suppress his power or contain it. He just needed to let it flow, like Dr. Brooks had taught him. Like a river instead of a bomb. Slowly, he pulled the energy back. The wings of light faded. The glow dimmed. He dropped back toward the flagship's docking bay, and the KRYL parted to let him land. The commander met him there, unarmed, her antennae lowered in a gesture of respect. The war is over. You have my word. Jake nodded, suddenly exhausted. Good. Because I really need to sit down. But as he took a step, he felt it. The tickle. The pressure behind his eyes. His allergies, triggered by something in the ship's recycled air. Oh no. Everyone get back, he said quickly. The sneeze built like a wave. But this time, Jake didn't panic. Didn't try to hold it in. He just directed it. Opened his palms toward empty space, away from the ships, away from Earth, and let it out. The beam of pure energy that erupted from his hands was visible from the planet's surface. A pillar of light stretching into deep space, so bright it left after images. It lasted for 10 seconds. When it faded, there was a perfectly straight tunnel through the asteroid belt, every rock and debris field in its path simply gone. Jake collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. The KRYL commander stared at him. You did that sneezing? Yeah, Jake panted. My allergies are really bad. Months later, Jake stood in the rebuilt Celestial Academy's main hall, accepting an honorary research position. The KRYL had signed a permanent peace treaty. Earth had been granted protected status by the Galactic Council, not because humans were weak, but because everyone was terrified of what other failed humans might be capable of. Dr. Brooks stood beside him, now the head of a new department dedicated to studying unique magical expressions. They'd learned that Jake wasn't completely unique. He was just the first. There might be others. Probably were others, scattered across Earth, failing magic tests because nobody understood what they actually were. Walking bombs. Or walking miracles. Depending on whether they learned to breathe. Jake's parents were in the audience, crying and proud. His little sister waved enthusiastically. He waved back, feeling more normal than he had in years. Later, on Earth, in a small elementary school, a girl named Megan Carter sat in the principal's office. She'd failed every magic test they'd given her. Couldn't cast even the simplest spell. Her parents were disappointed but understanding. Walking home alone, she felt frustrated. Angry. She kicked a rock and watched it skip down the sidewalk. Why couldn't she do magic like everyone else? What was wrong with her? Her nose started itching. Probably allergies. She reached for a tissue, but it was too late. She sneezed into her hand. When she opened it, a sphere of compressed starlight sat in her palm, humming with impossible power. Beautiful. Terrifying. Proof that she wasn't broken at all. Just different. Somewhere, Jake's phone buzzed with an alert. Another one found. Another student who needed to learn to breathe instead of cast. He smiled and headed to the transport station. The galaxy was full of failed mags. And they were all just getting started.